What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Rehash the Slash, the YouTube horror show where we review horror and horror accessories.
Yes.
Today, we are going to be reviewing The Nun.
The Nun.
Which just came out in theaters. Of course, I'm Nate, and I'm joined with...
Paige.
So, like I said, we're going to be doing a review of The Nun. We're talking spoilers, because spoiler alert, this movie's not that great. So it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. We're not going to do a deep dive, but we will talk about some things that people would consider spoilers.
Right.
So, Paige, why don't you give us a rundown, a quick synopsis of the movie?
All right. So this movie is directed by Corin Hardy. General synopsis. Got this from IMDb, straight off of IMDb. It's a priest with a haunted past and a novice on the threshold of her final vows are sent by the Vatican to investigate the death of a young nun in Romania and confront a malevolent force in the force of a demon nun. Demonic nun is what it says. Prequel to a prequel to a prequel.
To a prequel. This is, of course, part of the Conjuring universe, which, Paige, you said is one of your favorite horror franchises.
Yeah.
And look where we are now.
Yeah.
A special note, though, is we saw this movie in IMAX, and it was kind of cool to just see a horror movie in IMAX.
Right.
Because they don't really get released. It's always, action or sci-fi.
Right.
So it was nice to see it in the IMAX. But so we're going to go through our general thoughts of the movie. Like I said, we're going to have some discussion. Spoiler alert again, just in case you're still curious here.
Yeah, definitely don't watch this if you haven't seen it yet.
Or watch it if you have seen it and just don't give a shit.
Right.
Okay, so let's go through our likes, because we like to be positive first.
Okay.
Let's do some positive reinforcement. I thought that the movie had some good atmosphere to it.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The first part of it definitely, I feel like, sets the vibe, sets the tone of how they want you to kind of go into it, like feeling like, I don't know, like kind of freaked out. But obviously they want you to be freaked out, but it's what's like your like explanation on what you think like the good atmosphere was.
I just I felt like the movie had a lot of really tense moments.
Okay.
And the overall like the set design, the visuals.
Okay.
Especially with early on the nun when she is hanging from the front and you kind of see her face and it's like really like fucked up.
Yeah.
I thought that, I was like, oh, we're gonna get some spooky stuff. Right. But it really, like, that's kind of where like the super creepy imagery began and ended. Yeah. I did like later in the movie with the nuns in white with the bags over their head. Yes. Yeah. Like, I thought those images were pretty creepy. And I know you were freaked out, definitely.
Yeah, that last part with when his name's Frenchie. Yeah. The village, like he comes there and delivers like supplies to the abbey. Yeah, he delivers supplies to them and he makes a note that there's a door that they can go through. So they don't even have to like walk outside of this castle essentially to get their supplies, that they can stay hidden if they really wanted to. Yeah. And that kind of freaked me out. Just, I don't know, like him explaining like when the nun that he finds, like he puts her in there and he's just like, oh yeah, like I put her in here to preserve her because, like. Yeah,
it's like a cold storage room.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that freaked me out a lot. Like right off the bat, he's just like, oh yeah, like she wasn't sitting up like that, because they walk in when this novice, she's not a nun yet, she hasn't taken her final vows like they said, and then she comes there with the priest when they walk in there, and he's like, she wasn't sitting up like that when I put her in there, she was just laying down like that.
Yeah, I think the movie definitely sets up like the setup is a lot creepier, but as the movie goes on, you just kind of get desensitized very quickly. Yeah. It definitely falls a lot into the general like typical mainstream Hollywood horror movie where where all the jump scares are going to come from because the audio gets completely silent And that's exactly, I think, a big issue with this movie is that it's incredibly predictable, especially with the scares. Mm-hmm. Every single time you thought there was going to be a scare, there was a scare.
Yeah.
So
they made it very apparent. It would either get really silent,
right,
or it would have that. It just sounded like a very loud moaning sound, and you were just like, okay, like where's it gonna happen?
Right, like the general I think some of the music was in the other Conjuring movies. That's kind of like the Nun theme, where it's like that very vocal, like male, like
it's very deep.
That kind of thing. I think that music is generally scary.
Yeah.
And I definitely got chills at some points during the movie, but again, you after a while you're just like, okay, here comes the jump scare. I'm startled because it's a really loud noise because we're sitting in the IMAX.
Right. Yeah. If it wasn't for being, I feel like if you watched it and how you have the IMAX, it's massive, loud sound, or in not necessarily IMAX, but a smaller, more premium experience, like a GDX, like a Dolby Atmos surround sound, essentially. Yeah, that's a good format to watch it in. But I feel like if you were to say go watch it in just a regular format, I don't feel like you would still get that vibe, but it wouldn't be I feel like loud is definitely it's projected, it's in your face, it's all around you, so it's, I don't know, it's almost like you're immersed in it.
Right. And I mean, definitely. But it's not like the jump scares were scary. It was just like the loud noise startles you because you're a human being.
Yeah.
And that's how humans react to loud noises.
Yeah.
So.
Because if loud noises like that, sudden loud noises, those always mess me up.
Yeah.
But.
I mean, I jump too, but it's like you can't help jumping from jump scares when it's loud noises. So.
Right.
The overall storyline, though, was really disappointing because I don't know about you, but I expected this movie to be an origin story of the nun.
Right.
And I mean, I guess you get little bit.
Right.
But for the most part, it's just another scary movie, except for instead of it being in a house, it's in a castle.
And yeah, I mean, I feel like they couldn't have done better with where they chose to film it.
Yeah.
It's a really good setting.
Yeah.
Super creepy. Walking through, and I feel like, like you said, the visuals are really nice. It sets the good atmosphere for what they want to do. But yeah, they could have done, the story could have been so much better. Mm-hmm. And they had such a perfect set for it. And it just makes me, I'm so upset with that.
Yeah, and it just boils down to another haunted house movie, and you get the little snippets with the guy that originally owned the castle. I can't think of what they called him, but he was doing a bunch of satanic shit.
Duke.
Yeah, the Duke.
Yeah.
He was doing a bunch of creepy satanic shit, and that was really cool, but that was 5 seconds of the movie.
Yeah.
There's really not a whole lot of, like we said, backstory.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're definitely relying heavily on you seeing the movies that have already come out that are in this universe, because the nun is a very apparent figure.
Yeah.
Especially with, Ed and Lorraine Warren's story. And then when it comes to when Annabelle Creation came out, those movies also brought her into the story, and we're like,
there's all this hype building up to the nun. Right. And you're like, cool. Now we're going to get some answers, because I feel like throughout all of those movies, you don't learn anything about her, except for at the very end of The Conjuring 2, when they're like, oh, I figured out your name and you're a demon.
Well, I mean, it makes sense for this movie that they're like, oh yeah, she doesn't really have a name. She's just a nun. This demonic entity essentially just made itself look like a nun, so it blended in with us.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really make sense for it to essentially look like a nun to anyone else after that.
Right. And that was totally just a throwaway line.
Right.
Where they were just like, okay, I guess we have to explain why the demon looks like a nun.
Right.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. Why would it appear to be a nun to anyone else?
Right.
and again, the movie I feel like suffers the same fate as the end of The Conjuring 2, where they're like, oh, well, now the movie has to end, so let's wrap this up.
Right.
Let's wrap this up, and Valak, the demon, the nun, is easily defeated yet again.
Yeah, which makes no sense.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into this for a little bit.
Yeah.
So, the actress that plays Sister Irene, Thaisa Farmiga or something.
Yeah.
She's the younger sister of the woman whose name escapes me right now, that plays Lorraine Warren.
Yes.
In The Conjuring. So you think, at least my thought was like, oh, they're gonna say like this woman is like her mother or a relative or something, because like that would make perfect sense. Like you literally casted two family members to play this character, and they both have similar things where they both have visions, but for whatever reason they're just like, who cares? Like, that's all there is to it.
Yeah, and I mean, they both kind of touch on, like, in their own, like, Thaisa's character touches on, like, okay, this is a gift from God. My father, like, he basically accused me of being a liar. And then you have Lorraine, who's like, yes, this is, you know, basically my special thing, like my power essentially. So yeah, that would kind of make sense how they could have like done something with that, but
yeah, missed opportunity.
Like,
so it's like at the end of the movie, the Valak is sealed away back into the portal forever. But apparently when they tie it into The Conjuring, which is, they basically, if you remember at the beginning of The Conjuring, when they're showing like the old tapes of Ed and Lorraine, and they're like performing an exorcism on Frenchie.
On Frenchie.
And it's revealed it's Frenchie. That's the big revelation. That's the big tie-in of the movie. And she gets a vision of Valak, and that somehow sets him free again, I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
we'll have to get like deep into this.
Like that's it.
Yeah.
Like that's all it takes for him. Is he like Freddy Krueger, and the demon just needs to be remembered and feared by someone, and then his power is restored.
Right.
Like there's just
because it's like they, in the beginning, they're like, oh yeah, like in their house, Valak is there. It's in the form of the nun, and it's walking through their house. And it's like, how, if you defeated this demon, how is it in your house walking around? Like, it should be gone.
Right. It's just like it's too loose. There's not enough rules.
Right.
So it's like it fails in that sense because it just doesn't stick to anything.
Right. Like, was this demon summoned again? Like, I don't get that.
I feel like if you're trying to build a universe of horror movies that all connect together, like maybe you should put in some amount of effort to actually make it make sense other than just being like, well, it's scary and they all have really minor tie-ins to each other.
Right.
Also, this movie randomly had like a weird adventure vibe to it.
Yeah.
Like with like I found the clue. I found the item that's...
Here's this key. Let me stick it into this brick hole. And then turn it, and then there's a door. And then, oh, here's an egg with the blood of Christ. Like, oh, like, I don't know. That just...
Yeah, the ending was super rushed, and it was just like... Again, it was just like The Conjuring 2, where they're just like, okay, we just got to hurry up and end the movie.
Right.
And, yeah, there's like so much buildup, and there's absolutely no payoff. So I think that's about it for our general thoughts of the movie. We're going to give it a rating out of 5. Paige, what would you give The Nun out of 5?
I'll give it like a 2.5.
A 2.5?
2.5 out of 5 stars.
Right. Yeah, not bad. I would definitely I would give it a 2.
A 2.
I'd just give it a straight 2. It wasn't a bad movie by any means. I've seen a lot worse, especially this year.
Right.
But
oh yeah, for sure.
It wasn't a good movie either, though.
Yeah, it wasn't. It just sucks because I went into it with like high hopes. I was like, man, this looks scary. Like.
We'll just have to wait for the Nun 2, because it's like, Annabelle 1 sucked, and then Annabelle Creation was awesome. So maybe this will be like the Nun 1 was boring, but then the Nun 2 will be a good movie. So, what did you guys think of the Nun? Let us know in the comments down below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? We'd love to hear from you. Of course, if you enjoyed our review, don't forget to leave a like on this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new, which I hope you are. And I hope you ring that bell so you get notifications when we are uploading. This coming week, we're going to be discussing Friday the 13th, Part 1 in our series of slasher films. So stay tuned for that. Of course, I'm Nate. I've been joined with
Paige.
You've been watching Rehash the Slash, and we will see you next time.